Me, 27-year-old female, work as paralegal at criminal defense law firm. Always believed justice system treats everyone equally under law, constantly posting about criminal justice reform and fair sentencing. Everyone deserves equal treatment regardless of demographics. Spent college studying criminology, wrote papers about bias in courts, focused mostly on racial disparities and discrimination against minorities. Assumed gender played minimal role in sentencing decisions. Start working at law firm. Excited to fight for justice. Expect to see clear examples of racism and class discrimination. Completely unprepared for what I discover about gender bias. First case involves brother and sister arrested for drug dealing, both caught with identical amounts of cocaine, same charges. Brother gets 5 years prison, sister gets probation. Assume brother must have had prior record or aggravating factors. Review case files. Both are first-time offenders with clean backgrounds. Only difference is gender, but sentences wildly different. Ask senior attorney why such disparity in punishment. Oh yeah, women almost never get prison time for first offense. Explains that judges routinely give women lighter sentences. Something about women being less dangerous or more redeemable. Courts assume women are victims of circumstances rather than criminals. Start paying attention to gender patterns in our cases. Notice that female defendants consistently get better outcomes. Plea bargains, reduced charges, suspended sentences. All favor women. Male defendants with identical charges get prison time. Pattern is so obvious once you look for it. Research actual statistics on gender disparities in sentencing. Discover that men receive 63% longer sentences than women for identical crimes with similar criminal histories. Gap is larger than racial disparities that get media attention. Nobody talks about systematic discrimination against male defendants. Second case involves domestic violence between married couple, both husband and wife arrested for mutual combat. Police reports show wife initiated physical confrontation. Husband defended himself. Both sustained minor injuries. Wife gets anger management classes. Husband gets jail time. Primary aggressor policy automatically assumes man is perpetrator, even when evidence shows woman started fight. Third case is DUI involving young couple, both driving drunk on same night, both crashed into property. Blood alcohol levels nearly identical, same amount of damage. Woman gets community service and license suspension. Man gets 6 months jail plus probation. Judge explains woman has bright future that shouldn't be derailed. Apparently men's futures matter less than women's potential. Fourth case involves embezzlement at small business. Male and female employees stole identical amounts over same period. Use same methods, cause same financial damage to company. Woman gets restitution and probation, man gets prison sentence. Judge says woman was influenced by male coworker, despite evidence showing she planned thefts independently. Courts infantilize women, treating them as incapable of real criminal intent. Fifth case is drug possession during traffic stops. Man and woman in same car with identical amounts of marijuana. Both claim ownership to protect the other person. Woman's charges dropped, man prosecuted for full amount. Prosecutor explains that woman probably wasn't really involved. Assumption that women are innocent even with identical evidence. Start documenting every case that shows gender disparity. Pattern emerges of systematic bias favoring female defendants. Judges, prosecutors, and juries all treat women more leniently. Men presumed guilty and dangerous. Women presumed innocent and redeemable. Attend sentencing hearing for armed robbery case. Male defendant robbed convenience store with replica gun. No violence, no injuries, stole $40. Gets 15 years prison for armed robbery. Week later, similar case with female defendant. Woman robbed same type of store with real knife. Threatened clerk, stole $60 plus cigarettes. Gets 3 years probation and drug treatment. Judge says woman was desperate and needs help, not punishment. Man was apparently just criminal who deserves long imprisonment. Research family court bias, discover similar patterns. Fathers routinely lose custody despite being good parents. Mothers get custody even with history of abuse or neglect. Child support calculations heavily favor mothers. Men imprisoned for inability to pay support during unemployment. Women rarely jailed for contempt, even when violating court orders. System treats men as disposable providers rather than parents. Attend judicial training seminar on sentencing guidelines. Listen to judges discuss mitigating factors in criminal cases. Pregnancy, single motherhood, family responsibilities all favor women. Judges reluctant to separate mothers from children. No similar consideration for fathers or male caregivers. Women are naturally nurturing assumption influences every decision. Research prison demographics. Discover shocking statistics. Men make up 93% of prison population despite committing 80% of crimes. Disparity suggests massive bias in who gets incarcerated. Women commit significant crimes but rarely face prison time. Alternative sentences like treatment and probation favor women. Men go to prison while women get second chances. Interview former female prosecutor about gender bias. She admits to going easier on female defendants routinely. Women seemed more likely to reform than men. Unconscious bias led her to recommend lighter sentences. Never questioned assumption that men were more dangerous. Retired after realizing her prejudices affected justice. Meet with male public defender who's noticed same patterns. Explains that defending women is much easier than men. Judges sympathetic to female defendants by default. Juries reluctant to convict women of serious crimes. Chivalry isn't dead, it just discriminates against men. System protects women while throwing men away. Attend criminal justice reform conference expecting gender discussions. Entire focus on racial disparities and class discrimination. No mention of gender bias, despite being largest sentencing gap. Bring up male disadvantage during panel discussion. Told that men's issues aren't priority for reform movement. Women have been historically oppressed. Men can handle disadvantage. Dismissed for raising legitimate civil rights concern. Research historical context of gender bias in justice system. Discover that chivalrous treatment of women isn't new. Courts always assumed women less capable of real criminality. Protected women while holding men fully accountable. Modern feminism kept bias that benefits women. Eliminated bias that favored men in other areas. Double standard. Now systematically discriminates against male defendants. Case involving vehicular manslaughter while intoxicated. Male and female defendants in separate incidents. Both killed pedestrians while driving drunk. Similar blood alcohol levels, similar negligent behavior. Man gets 12 years prison for vehicular homicide. Woman gets 5 years suspended sentence with treatment. Judge says woman showed genuine remorse, unlike male defendant. Both expressed identical regret and took responsibility. Start questioning entire foundation of criminal justice system. If law applies differently based on gender, is it really justice? Men face harsher punishment for identical behavior, systematic discrimination that violates equal protection principles. But nobody cares because men aren't considered oppressed group. Attend law school seminar on constitutional equal protection. Professor discusses racial and gender discrimination extensively, focuses only on discrimination against women and minorities. When I raise male sentencing disparities, class goes silent. Professor dismisses concern as missing the bigger picture. Apparently, discrimination only matters when it affects certain groups. Research other countries' criminal justice systems. Discover gender sentencing gaps exist worldwide. Men universally punished more harshly than women. Suggest deep-seated bias rather than American-specific problem. Biological or cultural assumptions about male dangerousness. Meet retired judge willing to discuss gender bias privately. Admits to unconsciously favoring female defendants throughout career. Women seemed more sympathetic. Men seemed more threatening. Never questioned these assumptions until after retirement. Realizes he contributed to systematic discrimination. Wishes he had been more aware during active years. Case involving child abuse by single mother. Woman severely neglected children, caused malnutrition and injuries. Gets probation and parenting classes despite serious harm. Similar case with single father, results in prison sentence. Courts assume mothers can be reformed while fathers are dangerous. Children suffer when bias prevents appropriate consequences. Start advocating for gender-neutral sentencing guidelines. Speak at legal conferences about male discrimination. Lose support from feminist legal organizations. Accused of undermining women's progress by highlighting male issues. Apparently, equality only works one direction. Research academic literature on gender and criminal justice. Find extensive documentation of bias against male defendants. Studies consistently show harsher treatment of men, but findings buried in academic journals. Mainstream media ignores largest sentencing disparity in system. Write article about gender bias for legal publication. Editor rejects piece for being too controversial. Suggests focusing on women's issues instead. Truth about male discrimination not acceptable for publication. Leave criminal law after discovering systematic injustice. Can't participate in system that discriminates based on gender. Now, work on civil rights cases involving male discrimination. Advocate for equal treatment regardless of defendant's sex. Criminal justice system claims to be blind but clearly sees gender. Discriminates against men while pretending to pursue equality. Learn that justice isn't blind when it comes to gender. Men face harsher punishment for identical crimes. System treats male criminals as irredeemable threats. While viewing female criminals as victims needing help,